This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so in this session, what are we going to discuss is first we'll start with the taxation part. Okay, and then if time permits, we will introduce the new topics of new general ledger accounting. Okay, I'll explain you what exactly is new general ledger accounting later on. Let's first concentrate on the taxation part. Okay, so normally when we work on AR and AP, okay, so as of now, whatever scenarios we have seen in AR and AP, in those scenarios, we have not used any taxation. Okay, so which is very rare. In most of the countries, whenever you receive an invoice from your vendor or whenever you are giving the invoice to your customer, normally most of the countries have some taxation. Okay, so for example, if you take the example of maybe US or India, everywhere, you will see that there is some part of taxation which is assigned to the invoice. Okay, so each country has their own different taxation. Okay, so some countries are following the taxation at the national level, which means all over the country, the same taxation will be applicable. In some of the countries, there is a taxation applicable at the state level. Let's take an example of India. In India, we have a separate taxes applicable for different states. Okay, so for example, if you go to Maharashtra, there may be some other tax requirements, but if you go to some other state, there will be some different taxation which can be applicable. Now after GST, it has become a little bit simpler. Okay, most of the states are having the common taxation, but otherwise if you just go maybe 3 4 years back, the taxation in India was very complicated because there were multiple components to it. The VAT, service tax, excise, everything was different. Everything was to be posted differently in different accounts, and that is the reason, depending upon the country, okay, we may need to have the separate taxation requirements. Okay, so if you go to US, in US you have the separate taxation per jurisdiction. Okay, so they have first level is country, within country they have state, and then again within state they have jurisdiction level. Okay, and in some of the countries there is no taxation at all, although it is very rare, but there are some of the countries where there is no taxation at all. So whenever we are working on taxation in SAP, okay, you have to check which country we are talking about. Okay, and what I'm going to explain today is the universal tax codes, how they are created. Okay, so irrespective of which country, I will just show you how you can create a tax code, how can you assign the multiple rates to the tax code, but it totally depends upon the country where you are working. There might be some different requirements as the country's legal requirement may be different. Okay, so just remember whatever we are discussing is basic tax. It totally depends upon where you are working, in which country you are working. There will be separate taxation requirements. So, for example, if you consider any consultant, let's say if I'm a consultant who only worked in India, then definitely I may not be like need to be aware about how the US taxation works and how the uh, like Malaysian, Singaporean, or maybe European taxation works. But if you are working on the European project, then definitely slowly, first of all, whenever you are starting working on that particular project, you have to start understanding their taxation part. Okay, so that will come with the experience. Taxation is not something where you learn before going on for the project, because you itself don't know which project you are going to work. Okay, so maybe you will be getting first project itself as a European project where the taxation requirements are completely different than India and US. Okay, so again, just to summarize, taxation, you need to understand for which project you are working. For that particular client, you have to understand what are the taxation requirements. Okay, but otherwise, the basic tax, how it is configured, how you can create the new tax codes, that part we will cover today. Okay, so let us assume here that in AR and AP, we have a tax code. Okay, we have the taxation of maybe 5%. So let's say there are two taxations. For some of the products, I need to charge 5%, and for some of the other products, I need to charge maybe 12%. Okay, so these are the two tax codes I want to create. Okay, I need to create this for AP also and AR also. So whenever I am buying anything, again, I may need to pay 5% or I may need to pay 12%. Now, apart from this, there might be another requirement where I'm using taxes, but in some of the products, I don't have any tax. So it is zero tax code. So you also need to create the tax code with zero rate, right? So these are the examples. Okay, so let's say, for example, if I am getting the invoice, let me enter the invoice. So vendor number, maybe whatever it is, vendor is Tata. Okay, he's sending me the invoice. So total cost of invoice is equal to 1000 plus GST or maybe VAT, service tax, whatever it is. Okay, GST is, let's say, 5%. So which is 50. So the total cost after tax will become 1050. Right, so this is something which we want the system to calculate and post into the transaction. Okay, so I'll just go to FB60, the normal way of posting the vendor invoice. Let's say we received the invoice from the vendor. So till now, whatever invoices we posted, we have not selected anything on this tax code column, right? We have not selected anything on this tax code. Okay, what we will do now is we will start using this tax code. Okay, I'll show you one example and it will become very clear. So my company code is ABCI, this one. Okay, and I have to select the vendor here. So let's do F4, enter. So this is my vendor. Invoice date 10/12/2019. Just write something, test or something here. Okay, so the amount is 100, or maybe with tax it is 1050. Okay, what I need to do is I need to click on this calculate tax indicator. Okay, and I need to specify the tax code. Now, as of now, you can see there is no tax code available for 5%, and you can see there is no tax code available for 5% and 12%. The tax codes which are available are for 18%. Okay, there is only one tax code available which is 18%. But let's say I have a requirement. I want to use the tax code with 5%. How am I going to do that? So as of now, these are the tax codes created: A0, GD, GI, GR, GS, and V0. Okay, so if I want to create a new tax code, I have to go to transaction FTXP. FTXP is a transaction to create the new tax code. Okay, and tax code is also created at the country level. So you have to specify for which country you are creating this tax code. So I'm creating this for India. Okay, this is where you need to specify the 2-digit code, whatever you want to use. So I'll go with V1. Okay, normally input tax codes, which means which we are going to use for vendors, are started with V. It is not necessary, but normally we do that. So V1, just press enter. It will ask you the description. So I'll say this is the input tax code. Input means the one which we are going to use in AP transactions. The one which we are going to use when we are inputting any services, whenever we are buying any services or goods. Okay, input tax 5%. This tax type also would be input. Whenever you are creating the tax code, system will always ask you that you are going to use this tax code in AP or AR. So if it is AP, then V. If it is AR, then A. Okay, so V. All other fields are not relevant, just press enter. And this is where you need to specify how much percentage of tax you are going to charge or your vendor is going to charge. Okay, so you can see central GST, you can see state GST, okay, you can see integrated GST. So this is an example of the tax code which is created for India as per the GST requirements. So let's say I will divide this 5% into 2.5 as central GST and 2.5 as state GST. Okay, and click on save. So now this tax code has been created. Okay, we have a tax code where the rate is 5%. So if I go back to this one, maybe I need to come out and try it once again. So FB60 /n. This was my vendor. This was the invoice date. Okay, this is amount. I'll click on this calculate, and then I have to select this V1. Okay, click on this and just continue the way you normally do. So GL account I will select as 4,000. Okay, this is, let's say, debit. Here I will put star. Okay, which means I want to copy the values automatically, and then just press enter and see which field is mandatory. See, we are getting this error. You may get this error. This is a warning message. Account is not tax relevant. Tax code would be ignored. Okay, this means this GL account, when you created this GL account, we are not told the system that there will be the taxation applicable on this GL account. Okay, how can you tell that? If you go to the GL master data, so FS00, and for GL 4000, in control data, there is a field related to tax code. You can see this tax category. In this tax category, if you keep it blank, this means you are not going to use any tax code for this particular GL account. Okay, if you want to use the tax code, you have to select the tax category from here. You can tell the system that only input taxes are allowed. So this is the expense account. So most of the time, this will be only used for the input tax. You can tell the system only output tax is allowed, or even you can tell the system that which tax code is allowed on this particular GL account. So I can tell the system that this GL will only allow V1 as a tax code. It will not allow any other tax code. Okay, but normally we don't do that. Normally what we say is all the tax types allowed. So input, output, all the different types of tax codes are allowed for this GL. Okay, so star. Okay, and also please tick on this indicator, posting without tax allowed. So sometimes if I don't want to use any tax code, system should not throw me error that tax code is mandatory. If I don't do this, what will happen? If I don't enter the tax code in my FB60 screen, then system will throw error that this account is relevant to tax code, but you have not entered any tax code. So this both star and tick should be activated. Okay, and click on save. Okay, now if you go back once again, let me completely come out again. So I'll go to FB60, vendor, invoice date, okay, amount, calculate tax, and I have to select the tax code, which is V1. So again, if I select my GL account 4000, star, just press enter. See, now I'm not getting that error, the earlier error which I was getting, right? It is different error, difference is mandatory. So I'll just enter the reference. Now system is asking me the cost center. Okay, so let's provide the cost center here. So cost center in our case is test. Just press enter. Then try to simulate how exactly it is working. So document, simulate. Okay, we are getting the error. System is saying transaction key JIC, chart of account ABC0 not defined in table, this one. What does it mean? See, we are using the tax code, and in our tax code, we defined two different things, 2.5% of central GST and 2.5% of state GST. The question is, where exactly this postings will go? Which is a GL account for central GST and state GST? Have you created any GL? We have still not created any GL for central GST and state GST, right? So we have still not assigned the accounts to this account key, CJIC and GIS. So you are getting the error because there is no GL assigned, CJIC, which means system is asking you which GL should be posted. Okay, which GL should be posted for central GST 2.5%. Okay, so we need to create two GLs, central GST and state GST. And can you tell me what kind of GS this would be? Is it an asset or liability or what? Input tax codes are assets or liabilities?
Asset.
Asset. Why asset? Because we are paying to the vendor, but we can claim later on. right? So it is an asset. So GL account type would be balance sheet account. Account group also would be asset. And here we will say this is central GST input, right? We need to very clearly say this is input. This means this is used at the time of AP invoice. Control data, the tax category should be input tax account. So this is a GL account which is actually going to post the tax related postings. Okay, so input tax account. And in create bank interest tab, field status group can be G, or maybe let's see if there is anything related to tax. So if I do F4, normally we don't use anything else. Let's go with G001 only. Okay, and click on save. Same way, I will copy this and I'll create one for state GST. So copy this, it would be 2017. Okay, and I'll just change the description to state. State GST input. Okay, let's click on save. Done. Let's also create, because we will need later on. So let's create liability also, which would be used at the time of AR postings. So which is 1004. The next number available is 1004. GL account type would be balance sheet. This would be liability, and this would be state GST for output. Okay, in control data, you have to select the tax category as output tax account. And this one would be G001 itself. Save it, enter. Let's copy this to 1005. And here, instead of state, I'll change it to state. Sorry, instead of central, I'll change it to state. Okay, and click on save. So now we have 4 GLs which we can assign to our tax codes. Okay, so let's go to the tax codes. So here itself, you can see, just select this line and there is an option to assign the tax code. Let's go to the tax accounts for chart of account ABC0. Okay, and for JIC, we need to do this for JIC. Just double click. I think it is in the display mode. Let's try one more time. Otherwise, I'll show you another option of doing this. So country IN, enter, tax accounts ABC0. Okay, if it is not allowing from here, there is another screen called as OB40. OB40 is a screen which will allow you to specify the GL accounts for the tax codes. Okay, so which is our transaction key? JIC and JIS. So this is JIC, sorry, this is J1C. We need to assign for JIC. JIC, this one, CGST receivable. So double click on this, and this is where you have to provide the accounts. So accounts, just a minute, I think rules are not maintained. So JIC, click on, it is going for display. Why not change mode? Let's try once more. So OB40, data can only be displayed, data is still being processed. Okay, so maybe I need to come out of this. It is in the display mode. Let's try OB40. Yes, now it's okay. So JIC, okay, and you can have the option of, based on the tax code, you can have a separate GL account. Okay, so I'm telling the system if my tax code is V1, then the account that should be posted in case of JIC is which one? We created central GST for input. Okay, and save it. So now system knows, okay, the taxation needs to go into this GL account. Okay, so this is for CGST. Similarly, for state level, which is JIS, also I need to provide the account. Again, based on the tax code I can provide. If I don't do this, I will provide the common GL account. So it is not based on the tax code. It is a common GL account which would be used for every tax code wherever state GST is applicable. Okay, so this would be 2017. Enter and save it. Okay, so now system very clearly knows which GL accounts to be posted. So again, if I just go to document and try to simulate from scratch, let's forget about this. Let's again go to FB60. Invoice date is whatever amount, calculate tax. Okay, and just select V1 here, specify your GL account, star, okay, and just the cost center. Enter and document simulate. Oh, what is this now? I think this is the same error that we were getting yesterday. Just let me do one thing. SPRO, IMG. Okay, please, you don't try to do this thing, what I'm doing. This is something technical. Any questions till now, till the time this gets executed? No questions? Please don't try to do this because this is a technical activity. This actually creates the CDS views in the background. Okay, so it is updating the tables in the background in short. Okay, so this activity seems to be completed now. Let's once again try and execute this. I hope this error should be resolved by now. Okay, GL account, star, and cost center. Okay, let's try to do document and simulate. Okay, yes, that error is resolved. Now you can see very clearly what is happening is vendor is getting credited with 1050, which means we need to give this much amount to the vendor. We need to pay this much amount to the vendor, 1050. But is it the complete expense? No. Expense is only 1000. Remaining 50 is tax, which you can claim from the government later on. You can take the credit of this particular amount. Right? You can see 25 and 25, which means 5% central GST, 5% state GST. And in which GLs it is going? It is going to 2016 and 2017. These are the GL accounts that we have created just now. Okay, so what is happening is whenever you are creating the invoice, whenever you are booking the invoice in FB60 or FB70, Till now, whatever transactions we have done, we were not selecting this tax code. Okay, now normally whenever you are working in a company, each and every transaction is relevant for tax. So you can simply create a tax code based on whatever requirements you have, whether the rate is 5%, 10%, whatever it is. Okay, and if the tax code is available, you can directly use this tax code at the time of posting the invoice. Okay, creation of tax code is one-time activity. You don't need to do it on day-to-day basis. Only if there are changes in the government regulations or there is a new tax code in place, only in that case you need to create a tax code. Okay, so just remember, how are you going to create a new tax code? For creation of new tax code, use transaction FTXP. Okay, even if you don't want to use transaction, I will also show you the path where you can go and find how to create a tax code. So if you go to SPRO, IMG, so this creation of tax code is a configuration activity. User will not create the tax code. Tax code has to be created by the consultant. That is the reason I'm going to SPRO. So financial accounting, global settings, tax on sales and purchases, okay, calculation, and then you have defined tax code for sales and purchases. This will open the same screen, which is FTXP. Okay, so this is where you will be able to configure the tax code. Okay, and if you come down in the postings, this is where you define the tax accounts, OB40 screen, which I shown you. Okay, so this is screen OB40 where you can go and specify the GL account. Okay, whatever GL accounts you want to specify. This is the same thing, just another way of looking into the same transaction. Right, so if you want to save it, you can save this transaction. Document overview, just come out and try to post this document. Okay, post. Okay, so the document has been posted. If you go to document and display, you can see it has been posted, and I can clearly see if I go to this GL account, if I see the balance, I can clearly see how much input credit I need to take from the government. Right, same way, just one recap, we will create another tax code. This time we will create the tax code for AR. Okay, and we will create for 12%. Okay, so how to do that? I'll go to transaction FTXP. If it is already open, if not, let's go to transaction FTXP. It is saying it is already being processed, so I think this is blocking it. Just come out. Try to execute once again. Yes, so we are creating this in country IN. Okay, and we are creating another tax code. This time it is output. So normally output starts with A1, press enter, provide the description. So this is output tax code for output tax. Okay, press enter. It will take you to the screen where you can specify what is the total percentage. So central GST is 6% and state GST 6%. Total is 12%. Okay, let's try to go to the accounts from here itself. Okay, it is allowing this time. So normally it doesn't allow, but this time it is allowing. One more thing here, normally this is actually wrong, because we are not going to use the same key for input as well as output. There should be the separate line here created for output tax. Okay, so we cannot use the same GLs, we cannot use the same tax account keys for input as well as output. Okay, normally it should be different to segregate the input versus output. Okay, I'll tell you what exactly is this and how it is controlled. But as of now, I'm going with this 6% and this also 6%. But what I need to do now is, first let's save it. I will go to OB40. Okay, and again JIC and JIS. So JIC. In JIC, I already maintained using tax code. So I'll tell the system that if the tax code is A1, then I don't want to use 2016. I want to use 1004, right? This is a GL account that we created for output tax. Okay, same way, if I go to JIS, what I've done in JIS is I directly provided the account without the tax code. Okay, so what I can do is I can go to rules and I will click on this tax code so that I can provide the GL account according to the tax codes. Okay, so if my tax code is V1, then go for 2017, but if my tax code is A1, then go for 1005. Okay, and save it. Right? So now let's try to create one more transaction using FB70 because this time it is output tax. So I'll select one of the customer. Let's take this one. Invoice date 10/12/2019. This is, let's say, test again. Amount I will keep 11120, right? 12%. Calculate tax and specify your tax code. So A1. Okay. GL account related to revenue. So if I do F4, we have few GL accounts which we created for revenue, which is this one, 3000. Okay, amount, I'll put it again star. Okay, and system will ask me for cost object, but if you remember yesterday I told you cost object should be revenue. Sorry, cost object should be profit center in case of revenue booking, not the cost center. So go to the profit center column and provide the profit center, press enter. Okay, you will get this message. You know how to solve this. Account is not tax relevant, tax code would be ignored. What does it mean? That we need to go to the GL account. Okay, FS00 for GL account 3000. We need to tell the system that this GL is relevant to tax. So tax category, I can either specify star or I can say only output tax is allowed. So if I go with plus, it will only allow to use output tax for this GL. Okay, so let me this time go to the tax category for output tax and posting without tax is allowed. Save it. Okay, now if you go back and try to post this, so document, simulate, it is still showing the same error. Let's go back and come again. So FB70, this customer, this invoice date, amount, calculate, and A1. This GL account, star, and profit center. Okay, now let's go to the document and do the simulation. Correct? So 60-60. 6% is central GST and 6% is state GST. Okay, so this is how you can manage the tax postings in SAP system. Okay, so it is handled through the use of tax codes. Okay, now one more last thing which I want to explain to you. So if I go to FTXP, okay, in order to create a new, or if I want to see the existing tax code, here I can see central GST, state GST. Why I'm not able to see VAT, service tax, excise? There were a lot of other options available earlier, right? In SAP, like if you go 3 to 4 years back, there was VAT, GST, and all. The reason is, depending upon the country's requirement, you can use a separate tax procedure here. Okay, so SAP already provided what are the different kinds of taxations which are applicable in each country. Okay, so one very important activity that you need to do is if you go to SPRO, IMG, in financial accounting, in the same folder that I shown you for taxation, financial accounting global settings. And in this one, if you go to tax on sales and purchases, basic settings, The first thing itself is assign country to the calculation procedure. So SAP has already provided many standard taxation procedures for each country. Okay, so for example, if I go for India, that is country IN, you can see it is assigned to ZGST-IN. Okay, previously it was assigned to tax IN, this one, tax INN. If you use this, then what will happen is system will use the old taxation procedure, which includes VAT, service tax, excise, and all. So it totally depends upon the country's requirement. Based on the country's requirement, you have to properly select the tax procedure. Let me show you how exactly the tax procedure looks like. So if you go out and go to the calculation procedure, okay, and let's say if I want to see tax IN, this one, control data. So you can see here, you can see service tax, basic excise duty, additional excise duty. Okay, what are it is already 3 years now, so I don't remember the exactly names, but you can see all those previous conditions, VAT, service tax, everything you'll be able to see here. Okay, sales tax. Then you have, if you just come down, okay, these are the different types of taxes which were applicable in India earlier, right? Similarly, if you go to US taxation, you will be able to see whatever taxations are currently related to US. So if you go to tax US, you can see this one. So this is sales tax for USA, and this is with jurisdiction. So normally, most of the countries use this jurisdiction code. Okay, so for US also there are three options based on the country's requirement, based on the customer's requirement. We can use this one, or this one. Okay, so just to summarize, what we discussed is what exactly is a taxation. There are two types of taxations. First of all, input tax and output tax. Input tax means the tax that we pay to our vendors. Okay, and output tax is the tax which we collect from our customers, right? So in order to use the taxes in SAP, we need to create a tax code using transaction FTXP. And whatever tax code we create, we also need to assign the proper GL to that tax code using transaction OB40. Okay, and once this is done, we can use that tax code at the time of posting, whatever invoices you are posting, and system will automatically generate the taxation lines. Okay, if you want to generate the report, if you want to generate the taxation based reports, now again, each country has their own format of generating the reports. For example, I cannot generate the standard report in SAP and give it to the GST department. Definitely they will not accept it. Okay, they have their own format of the report. They want to upload, they are asking customers to upload automatically in the GST portal. So it will get only uploaded if it is in the proper template. Okay, so in that particular case, most of the time we need to develop this report on our own as a customer. SAP provides only one report which is standard. If you go to accounting, financial accounting, okay, here if you go to accounts payables or maybe accounts receivables, within this reporting, there is, you'll be able to see the tax related reporting, or maybe let's go to, just give me a minute. There is only one report which is sorry, it is not AP and AR, it is in general ledger. So general ledger, tax reports, okay, these are the different countries. Okay, based on the country's requirement, you can have different reporting requirements. So for some of the countries, SAP provides the report in their template. but otherwise you can execute this general report. Okay, I'm talking about this first one, which is advance return for tax on sales and purchases. If you double click on this, okay, if you just provide your company code, so ABCI, and for fiscal year 2019, okay, you can always specify the posting date also if you want. So if you want to generate this report for only particular month, you can come here, okay, and execute this. Select the posting date or fiscal year, document date or run date. Okay, so let me enter this date here, which is, let's say, 01/12/2019 to 31/12/2019. I'm generating only for 12th month. Okay, so if you just come down, you can see this is the report. So the total, what is the total output tax here? You will be able to see the tax codes. So the total output tax is, how much is this? 120. Okay, this is the total output tax. This is something which I have collected from the customer, but I need to pay to the government. And total input is 50. Okay, which means I already paid to the vendor. So remaining is 70. This is the balance that I need to pay to the government. Right? This is the concept of value added tax, which means total output tax minus total input tax equal to what you need to pay to the government. So this is your liability. Okay, so this is the report which will show you the same thing again and again in different formats. Okay, if you are happy with this report, you can use it. But otherwise, normally, most of the customers have their own requirement, their own template, which they need to develop on their own. Okay, so any questions till now? Have you understood the
Can you show one more scenario of IGST?
IGST? Yes, see, whatever scenario, it is not relevant to what exactly is your condition. It totally depends upon, so whatever you want to enter there. I just shown you the tax code where whichever condition you want to use, you can use it.
Okay.
So just give me a minute. Let me come out of this. Let's go to FTXP. Okay, so country IN. Let's say I will create another tax code which is A2 for output. Okay, this is output tax code 5%, just for example, and this is IGST. Okay, and output tax, so A. So in this one, instead of specifying JIC or JIS, I can just enter the value here as 5%. Okay, so complete 5% is IGST. Okay, again, this is not enough because I also need to assign the tax accounts. So I can go in the tax accounts. I have still not maintained the rules. That is the reason I need to go for transaction OB40 to assign the GL accounts. But before that, I also need to create a GL account, or I can use any of the GL accounts that I already created. So it is liability because it is output tax. So I will copy this to 1006 and then I will just change it to IGST. Okay, click on save. So this is a GL account that I'll use for IGST 1006. So maintain tax codes. This is done. Let's come out of this and go to OB40. So what was the transaction after JIS? I think this one, JOI. If you are not sure, you can go back and check what was the transaction because that is very important. So in the calculation, if I go to the tax code, country IN and A2. So it is JII. Okay, I need to specify the GL account in JII. JII, this one. Let's double click on this based on the tax code. So if my tax code is A2, then the account would be 1006. This is the account that we Just now created. Just click on save. Okay, and now this tax code can be used at the time of posting. I'll go to FB70. This is my customer. Invoice date. Whatever is amount. So I'll go with 1050 for easy calculation. This would be A2. Okay, and here I will enter this 3000 star. System will ask me for profit center. Okay, it will tell me the C object, but I need to specify the profit center in case of revenue postings. Okay, just simulate this, enter. So you can see it is completely going into one GL account.
Okay.
This is the scenario of IGST. Save it to post. Here.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Oh, how the payment will happen, Vikram, for taxing?
For taxation, see, as I told you, the payments are done. There is a transaction, but normally nobody uses that. I think it is FB41. Yes, post tax payable. So whatever amount you collected, okay, so if I go with 10, 12, 2019, account maybe transaction document type, I'll go with SA, and you need to specify this amount manually here. So in this case, how much tax you want to pay? Let's go to the report of taxation. So if I go to accounting, financial accounting, general ledger, can you mute yourself? There is some background noise. Okay, so whatever is the amount that you need to pay, execute it. How much is the total amount? So yes, so you need to pay total of 120 to the government. Okay, because your total output is 120 plus 50, 170, and your total input is 50. So you need to pay 120. So this amount I will enter it here in the post tax payables. Okay, so here I need to specify the bank account also, from which bank account this amount will go. So let's say the 50, which is credit, I'll select the bank account. Bank account I think is 2000 in my case. So 2000, enter. This is where I need to enter the amount. Okay, so whatever is the amount is 120. Value date is in my case 10/12/2019. And now whatever is the credit balance in your GL account. So if you go to the GL accounts, if you go to FS10N to check the balances in GL account, okay, maybe I'll see in this report itself. Is it showing the GL account? I don't think so. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's go to FBL3N. Okay, and I want to see the balance of 1006, 1004, 1005, and 2014, right? Starting from 4, 2015, and 2016. Let me see if I'm correct. No, not 2014, it is 201678, right? Two zero 17, 2016, and 2018, I think, yes. So 2016, 2017, and 2018. Okay, so let's see what is the total balance available in this GL accounts. So I need to, if this is a credit balance in this GL account, I need to debit it. So 1004 would be debited. $40,1004. Okay, how much amount? 60. Right, whatever is the credit balance here. Okay, then 1005, again I have to debit 60. Next, 50 will go to 1005. Again debit. Okay, what is the next one? Now credit, 25 credit to 2016 and 25 credit to 2017. So credit 2016, 25. Credit 2017, again 25. Okay, so let's see if the amount is matching. Right, the balance is 0. So you are paying this amount from the bank to the government, and all these GL accounts will be 0, which means after this payment there will not be any payable to the government. Okay, this is one way. There are other ways also in which, because normally these payments up to the government are done in the external system first, and then the files are generated in SAP system, right? Because taxation is completely handled through GST portals as of now. So you cannot directly come here and post the transaction. First, you have to post the transaction in the GST system, and then normally you come here and upload the file. Okay, but this is how at the end of the day your bank amount should go out and all these GL accounts should be nullified at the end of the month. So let's try to save it. Okay, now if I go to this report to verify how much is payable. Okay, so if you just execute this, if I just want to see the all items, sorry, I want to see only open items, yes, but again it is not managed open item basis. But let's see the balance. So this is also 0. If you come down, this should also be 0. Why it is not showing 0? This is 0, and this is also 0. The total balance should be 0. Okay, so there is no payable, no receivable from government. Whatever was payable, we already paid. Clear, Suganya?
Oh, yes, Vikram.
Yeah. So FB41, I'm not saying that is the only transaction. You can even use any transaction. FB50 also you can use to make this posting. Okay, so you have to specify the debit account, credit account, and you have to nullify whatever tax payables or receivables has a balance.
Okay, Vikram. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on taxes? So what we discussed is, this is called as tax on sales and purchase. Okay, these are the normal taxes which are applicable at the time of sales and purchase. There is another tax which is called as withholding tax, right? You must have heard about withholding tax, but withholding tax is not applicable for all countries. There are very few countries where you'll be able to see the withholding tax. Okay, normally in India we are using it like the most complicated withholding taxes are in India, and I think in there is one more country which is South Korea, I think, Korea or South Korea. Otherwise, there are very few countries who are using withholding tax. And that is the reason withholding tax is not the topic within the certification exam, within the certification course. Okay, but if you are still interested to learn withholding tax, how it works, I will share one video with you, which explains everything from scratch. So if you are getting the chance to work on the Indian project, at that time only you'll be interested in withholding tax. Otherwise, if you are working on the European project, US project, there are very few scenarios where withholding tax is applicable. Okay, but anyways, if you have that requirement, I will share one video with you, which will explain you how exactly the withholding tax works. Okay, so if you have any questions, we can continue, or otherwise, I think there is no point starting the new topic now. Don't worry about the schedule. Even if we go beyond 1 or 2 days, that is not a problem for me. Okay, so maybe we can close today and meet tomorrow at the same time. Tomorrow
Oh,
we'll talk about the topic. Yes,
From I have one doubt.
yes.
In validation and substitution, in validation, I mean, for line item, I can see the cost center. But for in substitution in line item, I couldn't see the cost center.
Substitution in the line item view. Okay, so GGB1. What exactly you are trying to do?
I mean, for this GL account, I need to have the cost center as this.
Fixed cost center you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to create the substitution at the line item, and then I think this one is the one that we created yesterday. Let me create another substitution. Okay. So test step. So you are not able to see the cost center here, right?
Yes.
Yes. So there is one transaction through which you can bring the additional fields, the fields which are not available here. We can bring some more fields in the substitution. So maybe I'll tell you tomorrow. I don't remember that transaction code. I'll just tell you tomorrow, which is that transaction code to use.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is possible. So I'll just tell you where you can go and you can activate that field so that it appears here. So apart from cost, any other field which you are not able to see here, you can bring it from that transaction. Okay. So I'm in little bit of hurry today. If you have any questions, park it as of today. We will discuss it tomorrow. Okay, thank you all. See you tomorrow at the same time. You can use same link that we used today.